it definitely does long-term damage, if you know what I mean. I'm hurting from it, now in my life, being over 50 years old, my body's pretty beat up. So I have to do a lot of maintenance training.
Is the neck one of the primary areas for people that don't know? I mean, this story is infamous, as you always said, won an Olympic gold medal with a broken freaking neck, which was in 96. And of course,
Yes.
documented that you were having to get Novocaine shots at that time.
Yeah, I got a healing agent before the Olympics. I broke my neck at the US Open, and the Olympics came around a couple months later. And I had to get a healing agent. It wasn't a steroid because that's illegal in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
But they also decided to bring a doctor with me to my events, and he would stick me in the neck with 12 shots of Novocaine, so I couldn't feel the pain while I was wrestling. And an hour later, I was in excruciating pain. So
I can imagine.
I suffered dearly, but I made it through, and I had to go for the Olympics. I mean, it was might have been my only opportunity, so I had to follow through with it. Even risking permanent damage to my neck, it didn't matter. I wanted it so badly that I was going to go for the Olympic gold medal.
Yeah. Well, can we touch a little bit too on some of the interesting stuff that occurred around that time, that people may not know? Your alignment with David Schultz, who you said was a mentor really after your father's passing. I think you were about 16 when your father had an unfortunate accident at work, if I recall.
Yes, he had a construction accident. He fell off a scaffold, landed on his head, and cracked his head, his skull, and broke both of his shoulders. And by the time he got to the hospital, he was in a coma. So there was no way of saving him. It was a pretty sad event.
Yeah. Well, and was that a really tumultuous? Obviously, I couldn't imagine going through that. Of course, you're one of many siblings in the Engel family, and probably the stress upon, let alone your mom and all of your siblings. What was that like for you then? What was it like to have David Schultz come into your life as a mentor, Olympic wrestler himself, and train you?
Well, my dad, he was the one that got me into sports, and he was very interested in sports. We all had to play sports. That was a must in our family. And my dad worked very hard, 12 hours a day. He was a laborer, and he also he basically went to every one of my sporting events. He was really adamant about that. So he was a good father from that perspective. The issue was when he wasn't working or at my sporting event, he was drinking, and he would drink till he passed out. So I didn't spend a lot of time with him. I didn't really get to know him. Not very affectionate man. He always said, no hugs, shake hands like a man. So he was kind of a man's man, and I never got really attached to him. And when I lost him, it hurt, but I realized that I didn't want to be him. Not that he wasn't a good dad, he really was, but I didn't want to be that guy that would pass out every night when after supper, when the kids are home and they could spend time with their parents. So it was tough, but not being having that relationship with my father, I wasn't quite as attached.
Sure.
But Dave came in. I started on Foxcatcher in 1988, and that was the club where Dave was murdered by the heir, John DuPont. And Dave was great. He taught me so much about wrestling and about life. He was a great role model, someone I very much looked up to. I learned everything from him. And, you know, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have won the gold medal. But he got murdered 6 months before the Olympics. So
Right.
you know, I was kind of on my own after that because I separated myself from the club. I didn't want the blood money. So I decided to quit the club, and which DuPont was still running it because he wanted people to think that we were taking advantage of him when he was, you know, mentally not right. So it was the best thing was for me to leave. But Dave was awesome. He taught me enough that before the Olympics, 6 months before, you know, I could teach myself the rest of the time. He taught me enough that I was able to educate myself what I needed to do to get ready for the Olympics.